Welcome gamers. Today we're going to review Commissioned. Let's check it out. In Commissioned, you are one of the apostles trying to spread the word. There are several different scenarios to go from. What we're going to do is we're going to do just the base adventure, which is Acts of the Apostles. The board tells you how to set up the board, any special rules. It says victory conditions. I need to establish a church in every city here. So every city you see here, I have to have a church. These are church members here, and I have to have one put out everywhere, at least, on the board by the end of the game to win. I also have to collect all 9 testaments. As you see here, we have the books of the New Testament right here, and I have to collect all those as well. And failure means, well, Roman Empire never adopts Christianity. Oh, man. So in this base game, there's a quick reference sheet on the back of the instruction manual that is fan-friggin-tastic. It tells you the changes by player number. So if I was playing with 2 players here, I would have 4 missionaries. If I had 3 players, there'll be 3 missionaries, and so on and so forth. It even tells you how many trial cards you need to remove, how many arm cards you get, and all that kind of, how many prey cards you land, everything. Quick reference, super simple to understand. Now you heard about missionaries. These little meeples are missionaries. Since I'm playing with 2 players, I would put 4 of them on the board. It says 2 church members, and I would have 2 apostles. Now one of the first things you need to do is, of course, choose your apostle. And you can choose from several characters here. They have John, Paul, Barnabas, James, Peter, and Andrew. All right, so let's say I'm playing as, well, I guess Andrew and John here, okay? Those are my 2 guys. Now, as you see on the corner of the board, they have each a special ability, and they have a corresponding deck of cards, like for instance, if I'm Andrew, and his cards are all going to look the same. They're all going to have this little dot here, which basically symbolizes I can add a church member in the spot where the elder is. And again, the quick reference manual here shows you what each emblem means, and so it's very easy to understand the pictures on the trial cards and the pictures on the actual cards. Now this is somewhat of a deck building too, because what you're going to do is you're going to take your deck, put it to the side, and you're also going to take some cards off of the top of the number 1 deck. You have 4 decks here that are worth different points, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And at the beginning of the turn, each player is going to take 2 extra cards. As you see, the 2 cards I drew, one gets you an apostle out of jail, one gives you an extra move in that round. So what I would do is I'd take these and I would shuffle them into my regular deck. As you see, they both look the same on the back. So I'd shuffle them around, and that's what I do first. Now, every player board comes with the order of play. This is excellent. First off, arm. You can draw up to 6 cards. 5 if you're playing 4 or 5 players. Of course, I'm only playing 2, so I would draw 6 cards. From that point, we would go through the live phase. Now it says 2 times. Usually you go through it twice. If you're at 4 to 5 players, you only go through it 3 times. And if you're at 6 players, you're going to go through it 4 times. Which means you're just going to repeat all of the moves on the live phase over and over and over again until you go to the mature phase. So here for 2 players, I only do it twice. Trial. It says draw and apply a trial card. These are the trial cards. Every time you play one of these are bad. And there are different types of trial cards you can have. You can have some that are easy, some that are medium, they're easy and hard, and some that are just plain awful. Now this is the deck of just awful hard ones, and it says when you first play you should remove these from the deck. I agree with that because these are just horrible to play. So trials are never good. So how we start off is one player assumes the elder staff. They are basically the head player for this round, and this staff will move around every turn depending on how many players it will. Everyone will share a chance to be the elder. Now the elder, when they pull that trial card on their turn, that means those effects impact this elder. So if I flipped over my first trial, it says, oh no, apostle's imprisoned. Oh, so I got to put one of my apostles in prison, and that means he can't move. He's out of the game until I get an angelic escape. That's really awesome that I picked that card. Now after the trial phase, it goes to the pray phase. And in the pray phase, it says quietly play 2 faith cards. As you see, you put them here and here. Now, if you're only playing if you're playing a 4 to 5 player game, you're only going to use 1 card. As you see, it says pray 2 to 3 players. If it's 4 up, you have to put it over here. So you just get to play 1 card on 4 or 6 players. But 2 to 3, you get to play 2 cards. Now, you're going to play them quietly. You're going to put them down like this. and no one's going to reveal them. Then you roll the die. Now, they suggest you do not roll this die if you're playing as beginner, but honestly, this is one of the best mechanics in the game. What you're going to do is roll this die. On a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nothing happens. You're okay. You can all collaborate and talk and reveal your cards. On a 1, 2, and 3, bad things happen. Let's see what I do here. Okay, I rolled a 3. Not good. What this means is, and this is a quick reference guide again, same quick reference sheet I'm using, message die results. On a 3, no one can talk during this phase. So when we reveal our cards, the elder has to make the decision all on their own. No one can give them advice. They have to make the decision, and whatever decision they make, good or bad, everyone has to keep quiet. Now, if I would have rolled a 2, it would have gotten even worse. On a roll of a 2, no one can talk, and I have to roll the die again. And if I roll a 1 through 4, a mission stop is played, and on a 5 through 8, a growth stop would be played on my position. So again, I'd use one of these double-sided tokens for a mission stop or a growth stop, and I would play it on wherever my apostle is. Remember, because I'm the elder here. Finally, if I'd have rolled a 1, that's really bad. On a 1, no one can talk, and we have to remove a church member from the board, like so. That would be really awful if that happened. So I rolled a 3. I'm on my own. What's going to happen is we're going to reveal those cards, and I get to pick 2 of them. Now, let's say John, as my other player, he has 2 and I have 2, and I have to pick which ones I want. Now, I can't get feedback from John because I rolled a 3. So, I got to make this decision. And I'm looking through, John's cards here, and I look through my cards that I played, and I played some really good cards. I get an extra move this turn, and I can get that apostle out of jail. And I want to play this one, so I play these 2. The 2 that John had on his board, they'll get thrown over to the discard pile, as you see here. It has a place for the discard pile and a place for your draw pile, as your deck will be built over time. And so I'd play these 2 and move my players around the board. And that's the next phase, which is move. I get to move 2 fellowship members. Well, remember, in my case, I can get a 3rd move too because I picked this card. So in this example, there are 2 types of moves you can do. You can do a missionary move, which is basically you have to have at least 4 pieces in that area to move. So for instance, I have plenty. I could move as many as I wanted to another region of the area. Now, what if I only had just 3 people? Well, I could not move even my apostle. I couldn't move anyone out because I only have 3. You need to at least have 4 pieces there in order to make a mission move. Now, the next one is a fellowship move. Let's say that my guy is here. This is the setup, let's say it was. A fellowship move, I can move as many church members from one area to the adjoining area without a missionary, remember those meeple missionaries, or the apostles to join me. So I could do that. That could be a move. If I want to strengthen maybe a church I see is getting weak. Because if, at any time, if any of these churches get extinguished, meaning there was cubes there and there's not, what you're going to do is they have these 5 candles here, and you're going to slowly snuff them out over time. Now, you don't want these candles snuffed out because every time they snuff one out, you cannot light it back up. So once 5 churches are extinguished, I could lose the game. That would be bad. I don't want that to happen. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind. That's one way to lose the game here. So I don't want to get any of my churches extinguished, so maybe I move a fellowship move over there. Again, if I was now, let's say this is how it ended, okay? That's how I ended my move, whatever my turns were. Well, then it goes to the grow phase. And in this one, we add a church member to anyone with 3 total in population. So if you look here, 1, 2, 3, my apostle and 2 church members, they get 1. They have 3 church members, they will get 1. And this one only has 2. They don't get any. They have to get a 3rd member there before they can start growing. So that's another thing you need to keep in mind as well. Now, there aren't as many cubes as there are to keep growing churches. So during the game in certain areas, you may say, you know what, 4 is enough here. I'm not going to add 1 there. You don't have to add an extra cube. If you kept doing that, you'd have 1 billion cubes in one area and not enough to play the rest of the game. So in certain areas, if it seems full enough to you, don't add an extra church member. That's optional. So after the grow phase, you're going to start again at live. Now someone's going to pass this elder staff to the next player, and they're going to start off with the pulling another trial card, and it starts over again. Once you've made it through a second time, then you're going to go to the mature phase, and it says buy new cards. And as you see over here, we have different cards, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 points going to be some of the best cards in there, 3, 2, and 1. And on the top of your cards, if I look at Andrew's cards here, I have a little symbol there. It tells me how much my cards are worth. Sometimes they can be worth 2, 3, or 4 points. Well, I have 2 1-pointers. What can I do here? Well, I can choose to buy 2 more 1-pointers or get 1 2-point card. Now, if I do that, I get to pick the top 2 cards, and I get to pick one of them. Let's say I pick this one. All right. So I would add this to my deck on the next turn, and as you see here, it's an either or. It's actually worth 2 points if I want to cash it in at the end of the next mature phase. If I don't play it, any played cards goes into your discard pile. Now in this one, I can either add a church member, any one church, or I can add a New Testament. Ooh, I need to add some testaments to my game. So I could play this one and add it to the testament. Now remember, it's up to the elder to choose this card in my hand. If I'm not the elder, I can play the card, but that doesn't mean the elder will choose it. So a lot of times, because you don't know what other players are playing on their board, you may have played a really good card and have wasted it because the elder at that moment did not choose it or did not need it. Now you keep playing the game until you have put a church in every one of these areas, or you can lose if you have 5 churches get extinguished, or you run through the trial deck and there are no more cards left to play. And that is Commissioned. Final thoughts on the game. What do I think about it? Well, I'm going to tell you about this game here. When I first saw the game, I was like, nope, not for me. Cheesy looking game, I'm not going to get this. Well, then I just kept reading reviews about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on it. I have a bad feeling about this, but I'm going to pull the trigger. And I was worried the entire time it came in, and I got it. You see, my gaming group does not like co-ops. They don't like playing it that much. And my wife absolutely despises co-ops, and that's what this is a co-op. And my board game group actually love it. And my wife loves it. This one has kind of broken the mold, and I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, I have a few ideas here. There is a lot of interesting decisions you have to make. That die that you have to roll to get people not to talk, that is the hardest thing in my gaming group, because it really hurts the alpha gamer who wants to tell everyone what to do and they have to be quiet. I've had to send people out of the room just so the person carrying the elder staff can make their decision on their own. And they don't always make the right decision. Another thing I love about the game is we had a guy who was the elder and we couldn't talk, and he made a terrible decision that lost us the game. And even I had to sit here like this while he was playing it. He was like, what is it? He wasn't paying attention. We were on the last trial card, and he had the game won. He just made a terrible move and lost us the entire game. That, to me, is incredible. I've never seen that in a co-op game where you cannot talk to one another. That's what co-ops are all about, right? Strategizing, getting together, finding the best way to defeat it. But if that die rolls bad, a 1, 2, or 3, man, you're screwed. You have to make those decisions on your own, and sometimes they are not the best because you cannot see everyone's input. Now, if you have that alpha gamer, make them leave the room, because so many times I had to tell people, you got to go, because they kept going, look at what card I have. This one would be nice. I'm just going to let you know, this is the card I play, just to remind you. No, they always want to talk. Not tell them what to do, but tell them what they have. Or let them, I want you to make sure that you look at the entire board, especially over in that region. No, you can't tell anything like that. You have to be quiet. And that is super hard for people. But I love that aspect of the game. Love it. It is also very historical themed. It'll tell you what the times are like, what was going on during that part in history. And my wife really loved that. She really thought it was interesting. Seriously, this is one of her favorite games of mine to play, which I am just blown away because, again, she hates co-op games. I've heard this game explained as a pandemic in reverse. Instead of eliminating cubes, you're trying to spread cubes out. But it is way more than that. Like I said, that die to me is just simply fantastic. That it's also a deck builder too, as your deck's getting stronger and stronger. Or you're going to have to, John's actual power is to discard some cards from your hand, because you're going to get a bunch of junk cards in your hand that you really don't need. Maybe it's a free a missionary card or something, and you don't have any missionaries locked up, and man, everyone else has these cards too. You want to get rid of some of your cards, so that's what John is for. Each one has their own secret power. I can't tell you which one's better because online it seems like everyone thinks that this one person is detrimental to the game and everyone else is secondary, which I disagree. I think they're all detrimental. Any players that you choose are going to be good choices. It's just a phenomenal game to play, and I absolutely adore it. I don't know how it comes in the rankings of co-ops overall, but it's definitely one up there in the upper echelon for me. All right, gamers, that is all the time I have for now. Until next time, game on.